There's the man of the hour.
Amy.
Hey,
Afternoon. How are you?
good. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Very good. How'd the first session go?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How did the first session go this
Um,
morning?
Technical difficulties, but it was all good.
All part of the fun, right?
Right. I had some unstable internet issues this morning, so and of course I always stumble along as my internet is coming in and out, and I'm going, "Am I live? I don't know if I am. I think I am. Am I?" Just trying to
I am
navigate
no
the
stranger to
waters,
that
but
one.
gotta love
It's always,
technology.
oh God, we're just at the mercy of it, aren't we? I mean, did I tell you what happened about 2-3 weeks ago when I went live with somebody? So it was
Yeah,
someone in America. So I worked on American time. So I was up at like 1 a.m. my time, which
yeah.
I don't mind. It's like catch the live audience. But 20 minutes into the session, us two live on YouTube, and my internet, in it, all its wisdom, decides to go down, reboot itself, and not the usual. I'll give it 5 minutes. The router kicks back up. No, this is like like a London wide. Oh, let's just crash at this exact time. So I'm like, really? At this point in time, you choose to go down? Really? And it's
No
like,
way. Oh, that's so
and
upsetting.
the icing on the cake is that so I use StreamYard to
Yeah.
stream to YouTube, and it didn't catch the recording up to that point. So we're like, really? So you have to. I mean, we did it again. I mean, it wasn't that much of a deal, but it's like the one time you need the internet just to stay all right. But no, it had its own thing. But as you said, what can you do? What can you do?
Right. What can you do?
You know what I mean?
Well, you are welcome to get started whenever. I know we have some people who are logged in, but they're new people, so they've not really learned entirely how to come
Mm-hmm.
on screen. So, but we've been messaging. I've got a lot of different areas where I'm messaging them in the community and on Facebook and in the platform. So, if you see me over here messaging, it's trying to get people to the right
No
place.
worries. All good. All good. All right then. Let's make a start. So, um, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be in the world today. My name is Vishad. I'm known as the Mindset Transformer with my brand Inner Peace Walker, and I wanted to share a workshop with you today called "Your Answers Are in Your Shadow." Now, coincidentally, that's the name of a book I wrote about shadow work, what it means, why would you do it, how do you do it. It's available on Amazon. If you just search the title, you can pick it up in ebook and paperback form. And if you hang around to the end, I've got a little bit of a giveaway for you in that regard. So, as the title goes, this will be about your shadow work. Why would you do it? So, first things first, people go, well, what is a shadow? People literally think it's that thing behind you when the sun shines. Yeah, but we're more talking about what would it mean from your self-development perspective and indeed working on yourself. So before we begin to look at what's into our shadow and how we work with it, we should try and define it for what it is from that self-development perspective. So the concept of a shadow comes from the work, or introduced, I should say, to the West, to the work of Carl Jung, who was a prominent psychologist, and he defined it as the shadow being one of the four main Jungian archetypes. Now, you're probably going, what the hell's an archetype? Well, broadly speaking, an archetype is a universal inborn model of people, behaviors, or personality that has an influence on your human behavior. So if you think of it as a kind of a template or innate human knowledge that's been passed down through our timelines, our ancestors, and essentially our shadow exists as part of our unconscious mind and has things like repressed ideas, weaknesses, desires, instincts, emotions, and shortcomings. So how do we actually create a shadow in the first place? Well, it comes out of our attempts to adapt to cultural norms and expectations. So if you think about it, it contains all the things that we deem are unacceptable in society, but not only society, but also to our own morals and values. So you might think of things like envy, prejudice, greed, hate, and aggression, all of which we've said, nope, I can't feel those things. I shouldn't put them away, but we all still naturally feel them. Now, you might have heard the shadow described as your darker side. By definition, a shadow is dark. It might represent chaos, the wild, and the unknown. And also, you might even deny that you've got something like that in the first place. Why? Because it might be easier just to go, I'll put that away. I don't want anyone to know about that, rather than actually looking into what's in there, and what happens to be in there is actually your answers. So we've said the shadow is where we store our parts of us that we don't like. So what does that look like in reality? How do we put things in there? Well, to answer that, there's a couple of examples we can go through. So Jamie, let me ask you this. If you consider words like shame or fear, what do they bring up for you?
Well, past, of course.
Experiences, right?
Experiences of the past, yeah.
Experiences where you felt something.
Yeah, emotional things. Yeah.
Right. So typically, it's probably some aspect of ourselves that we'd rather not think about. We experienced it. We had felt a natural affliction to it. We might have even processed it, but we're like, do you know what? I don't want to revisit that, or again, put that away type thing. So if that's the case, then first of all, that's fine to feel. There's no right or wrong here. But also it may be a point that you're rejecting these aspects of your personality that go back to your childhood. Now, as I said in previous sessions, this isn't about laying down a couch, lying down and giving us detail of all your issues, relationships, etc., and staying in the past. This is literally trying to pinpoint where things may have started from, so it gives yourself a starting point to then work from. Now, those aspects of our personality that we repress go back to childhood, where we depended on our caregivers for survival. Now, I've mentioned before that when we're born, unlike other animals who can fend for themselves pretty quickly, we're fully dependent on our caregivers. So typically that's your parents, but it could be your grandparents, foster parents, whomever it might be. So we receive the messaging that don't do this, you should do this. So we receive the guidance and the advice and the upbringing from our parents as the best they could. This isn't a blame game. We're not saying it's their fault, but the messaging we've taken on is that we've naturally felt an emotion, displayed a natural reaction or behavior, and we were told, don't do that, don't do this, etc. So we've created that filter to go, right, if I feel this emotion or this behavior, then that's not acceptable given the reaction I've just got. So I'm going to put that away in the negative emotions list, or you put it into your shadow. So if I give you an example of this, you imagine a five-year-old boy who's quite in touch with his feelings. He's quite sensitive, he's quite emotional, and if something happens in his life, doesn't matter what, which makes him upset, and he starts to cry. And in response, his dad goes to him, stop crying, be a man, don't be a little boy. Which is ironic because he is a little boy. But that comes from the feeling that his dad believes crying is bad or unacceptable. So he suppresses his son's emotions accordingly. So as a result, his son pushes that gentle, sensitive side of himself into his shadow and begins to act tough. And later on in life, as an adult, he's got trouble feeling things and not showing his emotions, even when they're required. And therefore, it manifests as an issue in his personal relationships because he never allows himself to be fully seen and fully present. So he might then say in adulthood, oh, I've got a problem keeping relationships or maintaining them. If you track it all the way backwards, that's where it starts from. That's a part of his shadow that he's not brought the light to. Did that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. There's another example we can go into. If you consider a little girl who, again, is quite natural in feeling her emotions, one day she gets angry about something and starts having a tantrum. And immediately her mum says, stop it, stop being so bad. And every time this happens, the same thing happens. The girl gets angry, throws a bit of a tantrum. The mum repeats the same thing, stop it, be a good girl, stop being so bad. So the little girl thinks, well, it must be bad to be angry. So I've got to try really hard not to get angry. So she tries to disassociate from her anger that she naturally feels. But by disassociating with it, it doesn't make it disappear. It's still there. So when she grows up, she believes she's always got to have it together and hold things, in check. And that leads to problems at her workplace where she finds herself bursting out, being quite volatile, and feels that people push her buttons quite easily. And each time that happens, she doesn't really know what to do. So that might manifest in an issue that I have difficulty progressing in my career because of the fact that I keep blowing up at work. So again, if we track it backwards, that shadow part formed when she was told not to be angry. So what these examples show is that the shadow is born in our childhood as a byproduct of certain interactions that we have with primarily our caregivers and the people around us. We're given the messaging and take on the messaging that certain parts of us are unacceptable, and therefore we put those aspects into our shadow. Now, as I said before, this isn't a blame game. We're not to say, right, it was all your fault and I'm going to get you. It's all about just understanding where things have started from so that we can look to better ourselves from there and shine light more on our shadows. So I've talked about the shadow. We can dig into what shadow work is all about. So shadow work lets us literally unpack all these patterns, behaviors, so we can do something about them, bring them out of the darkness into the light. And it's important to denote here that the shadow doesn't just contain your dark elements. It does contain potential gifts that we've got and talents that we might have unearthed previously but put away, or that we haven't actually discovered yet. So another example, you consider a small girl that's quite strong in her sense of self, i.e. she knows who she is, she knows what she likes and doesn't like quite forthright, she asks for what she wants, and she isn't afraid to speak her mind. So she's quite a strong-willed girl, but she's raised in a family that constantly tell her to tone it down or that it's too much. So that means the parts of her that are strong and confident are not accepted by other people. So she rejects those aspects herself. So this is where you have positive traits like being assertive and confident, but because they're not accepted by first other people and then yourself, they go into the shadow. So she grows up to be quiet and sweet and obedient, but later on in life, she's got difficulties, particularly yielding to what other people want instead of her own wants, and therefore not getting enough out of her own life. And then she still gets stuck and confused as to why this is. But again, if you track it backwards, it's all about suppressing a part of herself that she hasn't visited for years. That all makes sense?
Yeah.
Great. So, as I said, what is shadow work? What the hell do we do? Okay. So, as we've said, the shadow is where we store our repressed emotions, experiences, parts of us. And shadow work is basically bringing them to the light. So essentially, you're bringing your unconscious to the conscious mind. So, as we said before, some of you might be thinking, nah, not me. I don't have a shadow. Or, well, if I do have a shadow, isn't it just easier just to forget it and like just concentrate on just being positive all the time? And you'd be entitled to think that. You can take what you want from what you hear today and indeed anywhere else. And indeed, if you think this is all cobblers, that's all good. That's all fine. I'm not here to convince you or to persuade you or whatever. Well, what I will say is that just leaving things be can be more knackering than you think. There's a great quote by the author, Brené Brown, who writes a lot about vulnerability and opening up. She said, denial of emotion is what feeds the dark. I should put that on a t-shirt, actually. I better not actually copyright and all that. If we think about this further, if you consider that when you feel a typically negative emotion, somebody coming from the, toxic positivity space might say, let's flip that emotion around. So like if someone says they're nervous about, I don't know, an interview, an exam, a performance or whatever, they're told, oh, it's not nerves, it's excitement, you know, feel excited. Well, all that does is strengthen the shadow, because it's giving ourselves a sign that it's not good enough to feel what you're naturally feeling in the first place. And therefore you need to flip it to something that's more acceptable. And so therefore, if you say that, no, I don't have a shadow and I, you know, don't have anything like that, then you could succumb to your own disowned behavior by just sheer ignorance. Because each time we deny those emotions, those experiences, we just strengthen the shadow until it bursts out or shows itself when we least want it to, whether that's in public or an inopportune moment. And again, we're then left to deal with the fallout that then happens, whether that's with other people, with ourselves, but we just keep the self-hate cycle going. It's quite an impulsive part of us. We try and control it. We try and hold things all the time and repress them. But invariably, it will overflow or burst out at some point until we actually try and get to grips with it, accept it, which we'll go into shortly. And what I will say, this isn't easy. Shadow work is not just something that you do once and that's it, I've done. This will be a constant thing that you revisit, because the point here is that we're not looking to get rid of the shadow. Unlike maybe other areas we've heard we need to eliminate or get rid of or destroy. It's not a bloody war here. We're just trying to understand a natural, significant part of us, especially one that contains all the answers that you have about any question that you have. As I say, it doesn't mean to say it's easy and that it's a walk in the park, because ultimately it's your own shadow that only you can go into. There's pointers, there's guidance, there's advice, etc., but only you know your own true shadow. Now, there are some teachers, coaches, etc., who really like shadow work and said it can improve people's lives, etc. There are some that also say it's not that beneficial. They say that, well, if you just go looking for dark things, then all you'll find is more dark shit. Okay. But whilst it's great to focus on the light, it doesn't mean the dark goes away. As we said, it's just waiting there at some point to just pop out when we least want it to. So isn't it better that we might go looking for it in the first place so we can meet it, we can accept it, we can make peace with it, and actually integrate it into a part of yourselves? And shadow work itself isn't a huge thing that requires like years of planning. It's literally just becoming more aware of what is there and then starting that healing process for yourself. So how do we do it, Vish? Can we get on with it? Okay. So the basic principle is that we bring the unconscious mind to the conscious awareness. That's a bit of a broad term, so we'll try and break it down a bit further. So at the moment, when we encounter things, people, events, scenarios that trigger us or set us off, then that's when it seems the shadow is out. It's out of control. It's got a mind of its own. And at a conscious level, you have an idea of what's right and what's wrong, but it doesn't stop you acting on impulse, and often in a way that's to your detriment. So in what seems like a battle of your logic versus your emotional sides, you might find that a lot of the time the emotional side seems to triumph. So why does that seem the case? Well, if you think about the anatomy of our mind, then our thoughts, our behaviors, our actions are essentially governed by our conscious and subconscious mind, where some theories say that the conscious mind processes something like 40 bits of data per second, whereas your subconscious mind processes something like 40 million bits of data per second. Quite the difference. And on top of that, some neuroscientists say that the subconscious accounts for something like 95 and 99% of our behavior patterns beyond the conscious awareness. Now, the subconscious is where the shadow is. So the point here, the shadow is a habit of running things without us knowing in the background automatically. And we can call the subconscious mind the shadow because we can't see it. We're not necessarily aware of it. So again, the point here is to bring it to the light to make us aware of it. So the shadow is the reason we do certain things in life without understanding why we do it. Reactions, reflexes, things we just go, shit, what just happened there? It's your shadow coming through because it needs some more understanding about it. So essentially the goal of shadow work is integrating the unconscious and conscious, which leads to complete awareness. So the key points to consider when doing shadow work are firstly to become aware. So becoming aware means, as we've just said, we're unaware of the shadow because we can't see it in the darkness. So to become aware, you've got to choose to see it. Now, I don't want to bend your head too much here, but it's about the fact that if you have rejected aspects of yourself, we can reflect on them. Are they positive aspects? Are they negative aspects? And if you find something negative, we can make peace with it and start the process of trying to bring it from the shadow. And if it's a positive aspect, we can reconnect with it, reunite with it, perhaps even bring it back into our lives more consciously. Secondly, we want to make no judgment. This isn't you in a trial like a criminal trying to go, right, here's all your list of crimes before. Because one of the biggest mistakes you can make with shadow work is to go, if you spot something, fucking hell, why is that there? I hate that. Why have I got this? I'm an idiot. I've got too much bad stuff, all this kind of thing. Because if you let that harsh inner critic come up and judge the shadow for being there in the first place, like we said before, you're rejecting it all over again and you're strengthening the shadow. So therefore, when you see parts of your shadow, we can go, okay, I get that it's there and I can observe it without that judgment. We can observe it to understand it and then work to integrate it into ourselves. Then we want to consider that we actually want to be the shadow. Because once we become aware of it, we don't need to shame it. We don't need to blame it. We can give it our compassion, our acceptance, and maybe even learn to like those parts. Because our shadow was born from non-acceptance and rejection in the first place. And it was created the moment we began to push ourselves away subconsciously because of what we've experienced. So if we antagonize the shadow even more, it just adds fuel to the fire, it gets stronger, and it'll be more dominant and more automatically running things for us, which we're not looking to do. And the last thing we want to consider is, instead of our shadow being triggered, we could consider those triggers as messengers. So triggers are essentially an invitation to delve deeper into what's going on. Now, at the moment, when we say we get triggered, then we feel that, okay, there's an emotional reaction going on. And that means that if somebody presses that right button, then that's it, we're off. But if you consider going, okay, I can feel that reaction, but what's it actually telling me? Because, and this is probably for another session, the thing that triggers you isn't the thing that's triggering you. Again, not trying to bend your mind, but the point is there's something underneath that trigger that's inside you already. It's the idea of you reflect what you project. As I say, that's probably for another session, but if we just consider that we can treat the triggers as messengers, then we begin to ask ourselves what's going on here. Now, again, it's just a subtle tweak of language. So we're interpreting a message rather than defaulting to a reactionary behavior. So unlike before, where we said we flip, nerves into excitement, we're not trying to do that here. It's just giving us a better understanding of what is actually going on. Does that all make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So you're probably all sitting there going, yeah, great. But how do we actually do this shit? What do we actually do? Okay, so I've got some exercises that you can delve into and see what you make of them. You don't have to do them now. You can do them whenever you'd like to. And I'll give you some guidance after as to how to approach this. So first thing is to set yourself a time to ask yourself this first exercise, which is to ask yourself the question, what do I overdo in any aspect? At home, at work, social life, professional life, wherever. What do you overdo? Then add the question, why might you be overdoing that? What are you trying to accomplish? And also, what void or gap are you trying to fill? For example, somebody might say, I work too long in the office. I do overtime, might get paid for it, I might not, but I'm there longer in the office. I come home late. And yeah, I essentially overwork. So what does that mean? Are you looking for promotion? Are you looking to get things done? Are other people offloading onto you? Do you feel you've got to keep up the image of always looking busy? Are you looking to impress somebody? Or are you looking to avoid going home? Are you looking to avoid a difficult relationship or situation at home? Therefore, you use the overworking as the escape. So the shadow part is confrontation, arguments, and a dysfunctional personal relationship, which you're trying to compensate by just not being there. Another example could be you could be going on nights out and you go home too late. You might drink too much. Well, what you out so long for in the first place? It could be, again, you want to avoid getting the nagging at home. Again, back into an argument, a fight, a dysfunctional relationship. So again, this is all gentle questioning. It's not about what did I do wrong. It's more a sense of, okay, what are your current behaviors maybe trying to tell you, which you're automatically doing. You know, you automatically overwork. You don't consciously go, oh shit, I don't want to go home. Let me just overwork. You just do it. So you might just want to pause and have a think. The next exercise is what I call depletes versus elevates. So on a bit of paper, you want to make 2 columns. I nearly did that, but I thought Anna might look like a priest. In the first column, think of interactions that hold you back. And you can head that column depletes me. So what, in other words, what drains me, what, knackers me out. In the second column, you can think of interactions that fulfill you, and you can head that elevates me. So this exercise will help you understand how your daily experiences impact you. And again, where might you be putting parts into your shadow? So the depletes me list will be about, I might have a difficult relationship with my boss. My colleagues are annoying. My kids wind me up. My partner won't do this and that and the other. So again, it's a chance for you to check, well, what's that actually hinting me at? So there's a slight tangent here. My coach gave me a great example once of when he was living with his partner at home. They shared a place together. He would come home from the office, and within you opening the door and a short hallway, there was a dining table. And he'd often come home to find the dining table was a bit untidy. There were bags on it and just general clutter. And that would annoy him. When he comes home, he sees an untidy table, and it adds to him like, oh, another thing to either tidy up, or just it doesn't look, clean to his eyes, if you will. So he said to his partner, like, he just like keep this table tidy. And she's like, yeah, no, I'll do that. And then a few days later, same thing happens again. He comes home, table is untidy. They have the same conversation. Can you keep it tidy? It's just like, just annoying. He's like, yeah. Because if you dig under it, it weren't the table annoying me, the untidy table, nor was it her reluctance to tidy it or the fact that she dragged her heels over it. It's the idea that I asked her to do something, and for whatever reason, it didn't get done. I interpret that as she doesn't love me. She doesn't love me enough to keep it tidy and do something I asked her to do, not as an order or command, but again, it's something on a seemingly innocuous level, like an untidy table, but actually shows a shadow part where we don't feel loved. We don't feel listened to. We don't feel validated. But again, we just hide that away because we don't want to confront that. We just keep up the daily pretense of an argument of like, bloody hell, can you clean the table? Stop leaving your shit out and all that kind of thing. Again, if we just pause and go, what's that actually mean? Gives you a clue. The next exercise is go let it out. What you can do here is, once you've identified one of these shadow parts or something you feel you're struggling with, discuss it openly out loud with somebody that you trust. Might be a family member, might be a close friend, even might just be yourself, as in talking out loud. There's lots of studies to say that talking actually helps you release what you're pent up with, not typing or anything like that, just actually expressing. Gives you a chance to even question perceptions and stories that you've got at the moment. Because just that act of acknowledging, shadow parts out loud helps in terms of self-acceptance and reducing that shame. Often we don't discuss things because we think, fucking hell, I don't want people to know about this. I don't want to look like I'm weak or, I don't know, unstable or whatever. It just gives, again, some acceptance, which again gives you more belief, self-worth to keep going with this work. So with those 3 exercises in place, there's a couple of things to back this up that helps you along the way. So firstly, and it's a common trait I'll say all the time, is be kind to yourself. This doesn't apply just to shadow work. It's something we should always look to do. We're not going to get even things like shadow work, work on ourselves, the practice. We're not going to get it right all the time, and we will make mistakes. We will fuck up continuously. So rather than beat yourself up about it, and again, fueling that message that you're not good enough, we can recognize and we can accept how we feel. And then staying kind to ourselves gives ourselves the platform to make the changes that we want. So with regards to shadow work, it can be a challenge when you first start it, because immediately you might feel emotions of shame, embarrassment, guilt, all coming straight to the surface. So this is where we can remind ourselves that confronting and meeting our shadow is an act of courage. And we're doing it to try and better ourselves and give ourselves new pathways and opportunities, rather than just defaulting to this thing and going, fucking, I can't do anything about it. It's giving ourselves a chance to give ourselves more opportunities. Another thing to consider is observe your behavior patterns. So conscious observation. So that could be collecting real-time data on your patterns by observing your thoughts and actions. Now, some go, isn't that journaling? Yeah, it can be if you want it to be, but people think of journaling as like you know, sitting under a tree and writing Dear Diary. If that works for you, that's cool. This is more about, again, almost recording what's going on. And recording could be whatever you want it to be. It can be writing it down, actually recording it on a dictaphone, whatever it might be. But giving yourself the chance to review. So, you know, if you're a sports fan, it's like those typical halftime or post-match analysis where they look at what happened and this kind of thing. You don't have to go massively anally into this, but it's just an idea to go, is there anything repeating? Is there anything that comes up more often than others? Hi, Josh. Is there anything that came up for the first time? So it's a chance for you to not just remember everything at once. It's like, okay, I can record this and do something about it later. I do that myself. I have something what I call a recalibration log. I might, you know, let the behavior and pattern act out, and then afterwards I'll consider, okay, what came up there? What did I think? What can I do? That kind of thing. Again, not every day. It's not a massive, you know, scientific study. It's just, again, giving yourself a chance to go, okay, what actually might be going on here? And again, what I'd suggest is when you start doing this, you might want to write it down physically on pen and paper, because there's a lot of studies out there that talk about when you write things down, it's more beneficial than typing, because you're enforcing that connection between your brain and your arm, because that's, I think, on the shortest pathway. So, you know, literally it helps to empty your mind and revisit things, etc. That's not to say there's not room for both. You could like scroll out notes and then type them up afterwards, like you would in research or wherever. So basically the concept of writing and free writing like that lets you just express rather than bottle. You can just give it a go. You can let it out. And again, you'd be surprised how much you do let yourself release things, and again gives your shadow more light, and you feel lighter. You get more acceptance as to how you feel, what is going on, and understanding these things rather than just shoving them away and going, I'll deal with that another time. Again, it's always about the courage, and you've got to want to do it. And if that natural want isn't there, that's okay. You don't have to force yourself going, right, I've got to sit down, I'm going to fight this shadow and all this kind of thing. It's not about that. This is an ongoing journey. It's not about, as I said, in one block and then that's it. You'll constantly keep working and working on it. And remember, like I said before, there's no end point here. There's not going to be a day when you go, right, that's it, I'm done. You'll always be there. But this time you'll know why it's there, and give yourself an opportunity to keep working at it if you want to. So we've covered how we do it. We've covered what the shadow is. Did that make sense? Any questions so far?
No, I don't have any questions. I love some of the things that you were saying, as far as like to go back a minute. You know, exercises of what do you overdo. I mean, that sure was something that I went through in my life, and working in my shadows of going, okay. And it was really just listening to myself whenever people would interact with me and they would say, how you been? What have you been up to? And I'm like, I've been so busy, like saying that. And they're like, oh yeah, what have you been doing? And not having a clear understanding of what I was actually doing. Like, I was busy. There's no doubt. I was so busy doing whatever it was that I was occupying my time with, but not productive, not productively. So it was more of that escape. And I think that was for me. You mentioned how people can escape into self-soothing, type of techniques, where it's drinking or going out or anything of that nature.
Mhm.
I think for me, I did a little bit of both. I did the busy work and immersed myself in projects and creating things and just avoidance, right? Creative avoidance. But also there was a social aspect of it too, where I couldn't not be with friends. It was like I constantly had to be texting or calling or, inviting them over or having dinner together. It was just a constant needing that interaction, which was again that avoidance. But yeah, I think that that's a powerful exercise that you pointed out there, to really write it down. What are you overdoing? I think that people will really benefit from that. Yeah, just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's a great example, Jamie. Thanks for sharing it. And to be honest, when you hear these things, you're like, oh, actually, it's not just me that's experiencing this, because your
Right.
shadow is embedded pretty much everywhere. So you mentioned, a typical response is people say, oh, yeah, I've been dead busy and this kind of thing. I liken it to a recent example I had in my space where sometimes, again, when people, again, I'm not saying they're malicious. I'm not saying they're, trying to get at you, but just simple questions like that seem loaded to you in the example of like, okay, how have you been? I sometimes have seen that question in the past as framed as like, where are you in the race in relation to me? Now, they're not saying those exact words, but by that, them asking you, how's it been? They want to check, are you doing well at work? Are you, how's your relationship going? Are you earning more money than me? They want to gauge themselves in comparison to you, because we all want to make sure that, like, if you're not doing as well as me, great, boost my ego. And also, how can my ego tell you how to correct yourself and do things? So often, I still hear things like, you've got to do this and you should do this and for you and da da da. I'm like, yeah, that's all great. I can hear you. That's fine. Until I tell myself to do these things, doesn't work. Now, that's my own responsibility and work to do. The amount of people that look at me and go, what? Wouldn't you do it? Like, yeah, this is the point. I'm not better than you. I'm not saying that I know everything, but it's just about meeting those parts of you yourself. Because sometimes you consciously go, yeah, if people are telling me things and I think I want these things, why aren't I doing something? So it's the shadow work gives you a chance to pause and ask those questions, like why and where and what. Not why in an accusatory sense, but a more kind of, let's just check this out. What's going on here? And that's when your subconscious goes, okay, this is what you're trying to do. So I don't need to just protect you anymore. I'm getting the conversation. And then this is where your subconscious and conscious talk to each other, going, this is what I'm trying to do for me. Then that's how you two piece it together and move forward. So brings us back actually perfectly back to the conversation about, well, why would we do this? We said before, if it's just too bloody hard and it's just dark shit and we don't want to bring all that up again and all that kind of thing, why do we do it? Well, essentially, that our subconscious is a stubborn bastard. It plays on the point that division and separation are not the natural states of anything. Because as human beings, integration and wholeness is the natural state. So what our subconscious is trying to do is to actually tell us, look, there's a part of you that's not integrated here. So we need to put that together. So if you take patterns, for example, then patterns are expressions from the shadow, because the shadow looks at your reality and goes, right, if that's what you're seeing and I'm seeing it, then I'll reflect it back to you. So it wants to be seen. Your shadow is going, hello, hello. Ironically, it's in the dark and we're saying you can't see it. But when you look inside is like, was right there. And it's like, can you integrate me, please? And actually do something about it. It wants to be seen. It wants to be accepted. And again, it's once we look into it going, okay, what's actually happening there? Then it's like, right, that's why we want to achieve that integration. So why else would we do it? So some key reasons could be, we might want to tap into our intuition. Again, like I said before, when we were a child, we felt things naturally, emotions wise. We didn't care who was around us. We felt that naturally based on our own expressions and understanding. But at the moment, we're suppressing those natural feelings. So when I call natural feelings, think about your subconscious. When your last time your subconscious told you something in relation to anything, an opinion, a question, an answer, a perspective, your subconscious gave you an answer straight away. Now it's up to your conscious going, is that right? Is that going to make you look stupid, vulnerable, controversial? If it's any of those things, I better not say that. Hold on a second. Let me think of a more PR friendly thing to say. But what happens is your natural emotion or expression gets suppressed back again, because it's like, no, you can't come out there. No, don't do that. Doing the shadow work lets us step back into that intuition, which won't always be right, but it's more a sense of, okay, I can make that based on what I thought was correct. And as we know, we sometimes make mistakes with that, which is an opportunity for us to learn and go into that forward. Another reason might be that we could want to free our subconscious. At the moment, we're saying our shadow overpowers us, it can control us, it's automatic. So shadow work is basically liberating. It frees us and decouples us from default actions and behaviors that are showing up as challenges and issues in our daily lives. And again, it means that we're not ruled by something that we feel that we can't get a grip of. It then gives us the platform to self-actualization. So if you're into shadow work, chances are you might be looking at things like self-development and personal growth. So it's another tool to embed with what else that you're doing in order to, work on yourself to improve yourself even further. Or at base level, it might just give you more confidence and self-esteem because you're beginning to understand yourself, and especially the darker bits that you've previously not gone into. Rather than just going, oh yeah, these are the great bits of me and I like them and let's just go with those. You always get sort of counteracted by your dark parts because they've had no understanding. You've got no understanding. You don't know what they are, what's going on, why they're there. But doing the shadow work lets you do that. It basically shows you up as the full version of yourself. And when we do that, there's nowhere for it to hide. There's nowhere for it to be. It's just literally still there, but now in enlightened space, and we can be more confident of ourselves as we go forward. And also it helps us build relationships with other people as we become more liberated, more understanding of ourselves. It may help us to connect more, even though they might not understand these things more about shadow work and maybe invite to do shadow work for themselves. But we can feel that more compassion and connection to other people because we're not now fighting them. We mentioned before that certain symptoms are indicative of a dysfunctional relationship that we want to avoid. But then when you've worked on yourself, you can bring your compassionate side to that and not get into arguments that you feel are disrupting your life at the moment. And lastly, it basically can improve your overall wellness. Jamie, your space is about alternative healthcare solutions even, put my teeth in, improving your health beyond traditional methods and introducing all new modalities, exactly what shadow work can help you do. You may not realize that a lot of the problems you have at the moment are caused due to repressed parts of your shadow manifesting in pain, trauma, illnesses, whichever. It's not to say that doing this will fix them all, for sure not, but it just will help you begin to move rather than just go, right, let me go to a doctor or let me go to a treatment or whichever. It's the idea that you can take control of your own wellness journey by starting at the root. And when you address the root, you give yourself more of a chance because your body and your system will listen to you going, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. It sounds like a bit of a generalized way to say it, but that's it. You will pick it up. Going, okay, I see what you're trying to do. Remember, it's not going to be quick. Don't expect it to go right. A weekend or a week and I'm done. It's a slow, winding process. A little bit like you may have seen those things on, I don't know, Bloomberg or whatever financial thing you're seeing. It's like a stock market graph. It goes zigzag, up and down in a pattern. But as long as your trend is going in an upward direction, that's all you can ask for. So there will, as I say, there'll be up and downs along the way, but progressively you'll see the benefits come through. So the last thing I would like to share is even more of a studied example, or examples, I should say, of how you do this work. So those 3 examples of exercises before were for you to like open up and start thinking about yourself and what you're doing. What typically a lot of people say shadow work can be done via is a Socratic approach. So it's basically objective questioning and exploration that elicits critical thinking and re-examining your old stories and beliefs that you've got about yourself. So it's you taking the time to just sit down and give yourself some time and space to look into your shadows. And that's done by I've got a load of short form open questions. Now, I don't mean those questions typically on a survey that you just fill in blindly and just go, yeah, that's it. These are basic questions that are there to ask you to think about things. The things that aren't easy, they're not comfortable, and stuff you might actually want to avoid. So like we keep saying, if that kind of feeling comes up where you're like, oh, I'm a bit uncomfortable, that's okay. You can stop. You don't have to push yourself through it. You can come back another time. You can step back. You can give yourself some space and then press on. So before we get into those questions, some tips you want to consider when you look to go through them is, so each block of questions has about 10 to 12 questions in them. So you might want to consider choosing to answer 2 or 3 questions in one go. And as you process these questions and memories, again, you might be triggered, or have messages of emotions like embarrassment, guilt, sadness, grief. So you can note them and see what comes up to you physically and physiologically. Are you beginning to tense up? Does your heart rate expand? Do your eyes start watering? Do you start getting emotional, breathing heavily? So these are all sensations to do with your emotions, that you're bringing up these things that are starting to move up inside you. So it's an opportunity for you to explore them. So what are these emotions that are coming out? And if you're struggling to articulate what's the emotion coming out here, you can utilize things, if you look online, for something called an emotion wheel. So it takes what may be considered base emotions like happiness, joy, sadness, and splits them further into further categorizations. So it helps you to explore exactly what you might be feeling. As you're answering the questions, you might want to take deep breaths as maybe painful emotions, traumas, memories come up. Again, we're not doing this as a form of self-torture or masochism or anything like that. It's literally just trying to go, right, it's in there and dark, but I've got the courage and want to understand this more. So as I said, some of these things that come up will be difficult. So just be sure to stay compassionate and breathe. Obviously breathe, otherwise that's bigger problems. Again, take note of what thought patterns come up, what voices come along. You're not crazy. It's like, what are you saying to yourself? What are you thinking about it? You can make a note of them. And again, what patterns and habits are occurring. When you do this, you might want to be in a safe, supportive place. Probably not best to do it on the train journey home or anything like that. Just a nice, quiet place where you can give yourself some time if these kind of emotions and reactions come up. And lastly, you don't have to confine yourself to answering questions on pen and paper. If you are a creative, you might want to think of other ways to express them. You can paint, you can write a song, you can write a poem, you can dance, whichever thing suits you. This is about expressing what's in your shadow, understanding it, accepting it, talking to it, and then wholly integrating that into you as a whole so that you become more whole. So that next time you do stand in front of a mirror and you go, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, as toxic positivity people would say, instead of your shadow going, you don't like me, you fucking hate me, but I'm part of you. Next time you can go, oh, there's my shadow. I know why you're there. It's all right that you are. Not a problem. So with all that said, I would like to share a couple of sets of questions with the audience here. Jamie, if you'd like to pick, so these questions are in certain topics. So what you can do is you can pick a topic and I will go through the questions and share them with the audience. So we have beginner questions, career and workplace, spirituality, trauma/programming experiences, relationships, self-compassion, your dark side, being kind to yourself, or little you.
Oh gosh, those are all good categories. Let's go with little you. And I'm assuming you're talking about healing inner child type of work.
Exactly. It's harking back to, as you said, little you, which is often phrased as your inner child. I like to think of it as, think of the youngest version of yourself that had no expectations, obligations put upon them, and who basically did and said what they want. Not a wild child, nothing like that, but typically you could be like, I just enjoyed watching cartoons, eating ice cream, and reading books. That's it. That's typically what we want to consider as little you. So to little you, you might want to ask these questions. So question 1, what memories from your childhood made you angry? Question 2, what memories from your childhood make you feel ashamed? Question 3, how did your parent or guardian encourage or discourage you growing up? Question 4, what words did others use to describe you growing up? Question 5, what did you wish people understood about you growing up? Number 6, if you could go back to your elementary school aged self, what advice would you give? Question 7, what do you wish you could change about how you grew up? Question 8, what were you most insecure about growing up? Question 9, what was your biggest fear growing up? Question 10, what's something you rarely talk about that happened to you as a child? And question 11, what did your parents or guardians ask of you growing up? So that set of questions is literally talking about little you, your youngest self, growing up, understanding the world, what's going on. All again designed to give you signposts as to go, right, what have I not considered? What have I repressed?
Yeah.
What's difficult? But again, if you apply the pointers I gave before about giving yourself some time, letting things come up, and seeing what is there, and then asking yourself more questions as they come up. What might that mean? How does that answer look to me today? So, if you're talking about a memory, etc., does that still impact me today? Could it link to something I'm experiencing at the moment? And again, those connections you can only make yourself. And it's not to say you just sit there and try and figure out everything. This is where discussion with someone like a coach, a trusted friend, family member, whatever, would help to give you some guidance and input, etc., and talk things through with you. But again, better you lead that conversation, if you will.
Yeah, that's really powerful. It's a powerful exercise to go through.
And as I say, all those topics I have, again, more blocks of questions on. If you're watching this and would like details on those further blocks, I'm more than happy to share. Just reach out to me and I will share those with you. So, conscious of time, I would then just like to wrap up with the book that I mentioned at the beginning. So my book is Your Answers Are in Your Shadow, and Jamie has kindly put a link on the forum to a link. That's exactly where you can get it. And just as a bit of background to it, it's based on me watching The Batman last year in the cinema. There's a quote in the film where he said, "They think I'm hiding in the shadows, but I am the shadows." And then I thought, well, I'm going to write about that. And then one line turned into 2 lines, turned into a paragraph, a page, and then it just went off into a whole book. So it explores pretty much a lot of the things I've covered today, obviously in a little bit more detail. It gives you the questions that I've mentioned as well. And also it gives you a application of the principles and the know-how to the film itself. So as you're watching it, the film, which I highly recommend, by the way, even if you're not a Batman fan, it's just a great film, full stop. How you see the principles applied to the film. So as I say, do feel free to check it out. Let me know what you think. And as a little giveaway to anybody watching, etc., I have a free extract that I would like to share, and I'll put the link up on my my profiles, etc., to check that out. Do feel free to have a look, see what you think, let me know. And if you want the full book, it's available on Amazon, as I say, but I'll be putting that free extract up later on today for you to all enjoy. And as ever, if there are any questions about shadow work, your shadow, you want to explore your own shadow, that's exactly what my work is all about. It's not just shadow work, but it's a component of the construct, deconstruct, reconstruct process that's at the core of what I do. For those of you that are unaware, I essentially, as a mindset transformer, work with you on your own self-worth to reposition it to allow you to build your path to your own inner peace. My website is innerpeacewalker.com/links if you want to see everywhere that I'm at, all my spaces, all my shows that are going on. Plenty of opportunities to reach out to me and get involved as well. But essentially, if you have any questions, comments, etc., feel free to reach out and we can take things further.
Yay! Your book will be here Monday, by the way.
Yes.
I just ordered it, so we're good. We're good to go on that. I'm excited to read it.
Brilliant. I really hope you enjoy it, and yes, definitely let me know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Vishad, for your wisdom and guidance today. I think it's fantastic processes and just the way you put this all through. It's so easy to follow through and say, yeah, I see that, and connect those emotions and those thoughts and really begin to do some inner work, inner healing work.
Absolutely. And that's one of my ethos is to make this relatable to people via examples, stories, analogies, rather than just being ensconced in theory. You'd be surprised how much this afflicts everybody when you're not the only person going through what you might be going through. You have your answers already, but sometimes you need a little bit of guidance to get there. It's completely fine. That's what we're all trying here to do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much. It was amazing.
Thank you, Jamie, for the opportunity.
All right. You guys can also find Vishad in our community. You can find him in the chat here in the platform today. Send him a message and let him know that you listened in today and that you enjoyed it. All right, Vishad.
Absolutely.
Take
nice
care.
One, Jamie. Take care.
We'll see you in the community.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Will do. Bye.